Okay, so good day to all of the students. Thank you for joining today's class. So today we're going to discuss about the centrifugal separation, which consists of 4 outlines. So the first one is the centrifugal, let me open the annotate first, centrifugal settlings, the first outline. The second one is the calculation of it, and then the centrifugal filtration and its basic calculation as the third outline. And then the fourth outline would be the gas and solid cyclone separators. Okay, so we're going to do the first one, the centrifugal settlings. But before that, we will watch the video to get what's actually is centrifugation or centrifugal settling. Yeah, I will show the YouTube video. Okay, let's see it.
A handy centrifuge machine, muddy water, mixture of calcium carbonate and water, 4 centrifuge test tubes. Take the sample of muddy water and place the test tubes in the centrifuge machine. Now take the calcium hydroxide mixture in the test tubes and also place them in the centrifuge machine. Rotate the machines fast for few minutes. Stop rotating. Remove the test tubes and observe. We see mud particles and white precipitate have settled in each of the test tubes. This is the process of centrifugation. In a centrifuge, as we rotate, the substances experience centrifugal force away from the center, which forces the materials against the wall of the tube. The amount of centrifugal force experienced by any object depends on its mass and the speed of rotation. The components of a mixture get separated because the denser particles are forced to the bottom while the lighter ones stay at the top. So with an increase in the speed of rotation, even lighter materials can settle down. Centrifugation is used in diagnostic labs for blood and urine tests. It is used in dairies and homes to separate butter from cream.
Okay. So I will go back to the slide. Okay, so I hope that you already get the idea of what centrifugal settling is. So I will start. Yeah, so in an usual operation of sedimentation, we usually see that the gravitational force in the sedimentation is the dominant force that is used to separate the solid from the liquid. However, in the subchapter, we will discuss sedimentation using not the gravitational force, but the centrifugal force to separate solid from liquid, as well as liquid-liquid with different density. Yeah. So the force here in the centrifugation, the predominant force is not the gravitational force again, but the centrifugal force. Yeah. Now, the uses of centrifugal force increases the forces on particle manifold as compared with the gravitational force. So particles that are very small and unable to be settled by gravitation can be separated using this method. And the time requirement to separate is much shorter than the sedimentation by gravitational force. Okay. Now, for example, in skim milk manufacturer, so if we want to get a low-fat milk, so we have to remove the cream from the whole milk. Now, if it's a colloid, right? Milk is a colloid. If we use gravitational force to separate the cream from the milk, yeah, it takes days, maybe it takes weeks. Yeah, it's very long. Yeah, however, it takes only minutes if we use centrifugation. Because of what? Because using the centrifugation force, yeah, it will increase the forces on particle many times. Yeah, there is one important note in the centrifugation. Yeah, the centrifugal force will change the terminal velocity or VT of most particle. However, if the particle is very small, yeah, very fine, yeah, it cannot change the terminal settling velocity by much, yeah, by significant. Yeah, however, it still decreased the effect of the Brownian motion and free convection current. Yeah, I hope that you still remember what Brownian motion is. Yeah, it is a motion where the particle, yeah, fall down, yeah, from top to bottom, but not directly vertically. Yeah, it moves sideways. Yeah, why? Because of the particle collide with another liquid uh, molecules. Yeah, because the particle is small enough, then the collision, yeah, between the particle with the liquid molecules makes the particle move sideways, not move down, yeah, vertically. Okay, that's Brownian motion. Okay, now the principle of the centrifugal separation is that the object is whirled, yeah, diputar, yeah, at constant radius, yeah. The object is always changing in direction because it rotates. Yeah. Therefore, the acceleration, yeah, do not occurs actually like this following the red arrows, but it follows the black arrow. Yeah. So the velocity that occurs is the radial velocity. Yeah. There are two forces, yeah, exerted from the object. First is the centripetal force. Yeah, it's the force exerted in the direction from the object to the center. While the centrifugal force, yeah, the second force is the force exerted in the direction from the center to the object. Yeah, and the centrifugal force is the force that makes, yeah, the heavier density particle or heavier density material to move to the outer part of the vessel. Yeah, the outer perimeter of the vessel or to the wall. Yeah, that's the principle of centrifugal separation. Nah, okay, so we go to figure one. Okay, nah, I will make it a little bit bigger. The figure, okay. Yeah, so we imagine that we have a liquid and solid, yeah, that are subjected to centrifugal separation, just like this. So we have slurry fit. Slurry means we have liquid and solid in one system, yeah, and then when the mixture comes in and it rotated, yeah, both liquid and solid exerted force, which is the centrifugal force. So that's why the movement is going to the outer part of the vessel, yeah. Now, however, since the solid and liquid have different density, yeah, so they exert different centrifugal force, yeah. Okay. So it makes the two phases to separate. Yeah. The one with higher density, yeah, or with the higher particle mass, begitu ya. Nah, it will contain higher centrifugal force. Higher centrifugal force causes the materials to fill, yeah, to fill the outer perimeter of the vessel, while the lighter one fill the inner part. Yeah, it goes as well if we have two liquid with different density. The heavier material, the heavier liquid will fill out the outer perimeter, while the lighter one will fill out the inner perimeter. Okay? Now, in this separation, actually there is also a gravitational force. Yeah, however, it is neglected because the centrifugal force is way higher, yeah, than the gravitational force. Okay? Okay. So we go to the calculation. Nah, I believe that you guys already know about this because it's shared in the physics class, I believe, and also maybe in your high school era. Yeah, I hope that you still remember it. So instead of having a linear velocity, centrifugal force calculation requires the angular velocity. Yeah. So it's to measure how fast the object rotated, and it can be defined as total angle per time. Yeah. Now, the angular velocity, yeah, can be calculated as well with the using the linear velocity and its radius. Yeah. So V over R equal to omega. Yeah. And the angular velocity can be also calculated using the angular frequency. Yeah. Using this. Yeah. And the unit of the angular velocity is radian per second. Yeah. 1 radian, yeah, is 180 per pi, and 1 revolution is 2 pi. Okay. Okay. Now, we have several new equations here. Yeah. However, if you know it already, then it would be very good. Yeah. Now, if we have velocity, then of course we have acceleration. We have linear velocity, we have linear acceleration, or we call it as A. Yeah. Now, in this angular velocity, we have also angular acceleration. Yeah, we call it as AE. Yeah, and we can see the definition of AE in equation 1. Okay, so this one. Yeah. Now, and also we have gravitational force. Yeah, we have force as in axial or linear force. However, we also have centrifugal force or FC. We can see the equation from equation number 2 here. Yeah, if you see it's similar to the gravitational force, yeah, it's mg, but now it's MAE. Yeah, in the linear force, we also know as MA, yeah, mass times acceleration. Now we know it as MAE. Yeah, we just change the acceleration from the linear or gravitational acceleration to the centrifugal acceleration or angular acceleration. Okay, now, okay, since angular acceleration is also a function of angular velocity, and angular velocity is also a function of linear velocity, then we can actually, yeah, calculate the centrifugal force using the linear velocity, yeah, in equation 3. Okay, now, and then usually, yeah, we don't talk about angular velocity. Yeah, usually when we do the centrifugation, we use what we call N or RPM. Yeah, what is the rotation per minute? Yeah, or what is the rotational speed of the centrifuge? Yeah, nah, rotational speed of the centrifuge or N, yeah, is defined as a number of revolution per time. Yeah, where we know that one single revolution is 2 pi. Yeah, so the angular velocity, yeah, is actually total angle per unit time. The total angle can be calculated using N times 2 pi, because one revolution is 2 pi, yeah, divided by 60, because usually RPM is in minute, yeah. So when we want to change it to second, then we just have to divide it by 60. Yeah, so we can get the final calculation using, sorry, we can get the final calculation in equation 4 and 5. Okay, yeah. Now, using the previous equation, yeah, using the previous equation from 1 to 5, yeah, then actually FC can be also calculated using equation 6. Okay, so we go equation 6 like this, yeah, and the correlation between the centrifugal force and the gravitational force to know, yeah, like how many times, how many folds the centrifugal force, yeah, can increase, yeah, the speed or the terminal velocity, yeah, of the particle as compared to the gravitational force, then we can use equation 7. Yeah, this is correlation between FC and FG. Okay, okay, so we go to example 1. Yeah, so we have a centrifuge, yeah, having a radius of the bowl of 10 centimeters, rotating at n of 1000 RPM. Okay, the first one, calculate the centrifugal force developed in terms of gravity forces. So what we want to calculate is Fc per Fg. Yeah, and then the second question would be the compare this force to that for a ball with a radius of 2 times of the one stated in the problem, rotating at the same RPM, which is 1000. Okay, so the solution, we can just use the equation 7 because it's the calculation for the comparison between Fc and Fg. So this is the equation. Then we can just put the radius and n, yeah, to the equation. Then we can get that, oh, the centrifugal force as compared to the gravitational force is 113.6 times higher. Yeah, and as well for the point B, only the radius is changed. So we change the radius only. The RPM is still the same, and it turns out that Fc over Fg is 227.2. Okay, okay. Nah, okay. So we see the figure 2. Nah, okay. Yeah, that if we see the centrifuge as a whole. Now we see the movement of the particle. Yeah, we see the movement of the particle. Yeah, as you can, uh, I hope that you still remember that in the settling and sedimentation subchapter, we talk a lot about terminal velocity of the particle. Yeah, now here in the centrifugation, we will also talk about terminal velocity of the particle. Yeah, however, it's not settling in the downward or top bottom direction. It moves in the radial direction because it's centrifuge. Yeah. Nah, so the terminal velocity in radial direction, yeah, can be calculated using equation 8. Yeah, it's actually a derivation from subchapter of settling and sedimentation. Yeah, but we change the gravity with AE. Yeah, so we got this equation. Yeah, nah, and then we have several typical cases, yeah, which results in different equation for calculating the result. Yeah. Nah, the first one, if hindered settling occurs also, if you still remember, yeah, in settling and sedimentation, we have hindered settling as well. So here we also have hindered centrifugal settling. Yeah, so we have to multiply this term, yeah, this omega up until mu here with the correction factor. Yeah, with this correction factor. Okay. Yeah, and it's usually a constant, and we can see it from the problem. Okay. Nah, and then since Vt, yeah, is now not the settling velocity from top to the bottom, but it's a settling velocity of a particle in radial direction, then we change the Vt, yeah, to equation 9. Yeah. Because what changed now is not the velocity does not change based on the height of the vessel, but it's now changed with the radius. It changed with the radius. Yeah. Yeah, because it moves in the radial direction. Yeah. So the equation become equation 9. And then after integrating it, yeah, after integrating this equation, then we can find the residence time required to separate solid from the liquid using the centrifuge. Yeah, so later if the question is, what is the residence times required, yeah, to separate a given particle in the centrifuge, then we can use equation 10. Yeah. Okay, so what is R2 and R1? Yeah, R2 and R1, we go back to the figure 2 here. Yeah, R2 is the radius of the vessel. Yeah, between the center line with the wall of the vessel. Yeah. However, R2, R1 is the radius between the center with the liquid or with the mixture interface. Yeah, it's the mixture interface. This is empty spaces. This one is the mixture interfaces to the center line. It's R1. Yeah. Okay. Nah, and then yeah, using this TT, this TT. Now, using this TT, yeah, we can actually calculate the flow rate, the volumetric flow rate of the centrifuge feed. Yeah, why? Because actually TT, yeah, can be defined, yeah, as a VB per Q, yeah, VB per Q, or volume of liquid in the centrifuge bowl divided by the volumetric flow rate of liquid feed. So we can calculate Q using TT and VB. So what is VB? Yeah, VB is the volume of the liquid in the centrifuge bowl. So I will go back to figure 2. Yeah, so this one. So actually, the volume of this part, and this part, because this one is empty spaces. Yeah, this one is empty space. So it's this one and this one. What is the volume? Yeah, since it's cylindrical, so it's actually the volume of an annulus. Yeah, yeah. So the volume of this vessel minus the volume of this empty vessel, empty spaces. Yeah, that's the volume of the annulus. So that's why the equation for VB is pi b, b is the height, times R2 square, yeah, the volume of the vessel, yeah, minus R1 square, the volume of the empty spaces. Yeah, it's the volume of the inlet liquid and contained particles. Yeah, therefore, yeah, since VB is this one, I can just put it here. I put TT from equation 10, then I can calculate Q using equation 11. That's the combination between those two equations. Yeah, this one. Okay, and note, yeah, please take a note that particle with size smaller than dP, because if you still remember, when I talk about settling and sedimentation, yeah, when I talk about the solid liquid separation, yeah, when we talk about the diameter of the solid, yeah, actually in the real life, the dP is not only in one single value. Yeah, dP is always in a range. Yeah, so dP plus minus, usually plus minus blah 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 begitu ya. So it's actually a range. Yeah, it's actually a range. Yeah, it's not only one dP. Nah, so usually, yeah, there is some particle that is smaller than dP. There is particle that is bigger than dP. dP is the average. Yeah, dP is the mean. Okay. Nah, so particle with size smaller than dP used in the calculation usually will not go out as a solid. Yeah, it will not reach the wall of the bowl. Usually it will overflow or go out with the liquid. Yeah, while the larger particle than dP, yeah, it's a certain that they will be deposited on the wall. Yeah, they will go out as a cake, gitu ya. Nah, okay. And then we have other two important parameters, yeah, that is important in the calculation. The first one is DPC, or critical particle diameter, yeah, where it can be defined as a diameter of a particle that reaches half the distance between R1 and R2 during centrifugation. So DPC is a diameter where this particle during the centrifugation, it reaches only half, only in the middle, yeah, only reach this part, yeah, between R1 and R2, half, yeah, okay, yeah, and the other one is QC. Yeah, what is QC? QC is critical flow rate. Yeah, what is critical flow rate? Yeah, is the optimum feed flow rate. Yeah, which can be seen in equation 12. Yeah, which can be calculated using equation 12. Yeah, nah, okay. So what is DPC? Yeah, what is DPC imply to? Yeah, so DPC, or critical particle diameter. Yeah, if the diameter of the particle is lower than DPC, yeah, then it will not reach the wall. Yeah, it will still retain in the fluid, in the liquid. Yeah, so it will go out with the liquid. Yeah, dP lower than dPc, that means the particle will go out with the liquid, while dP higher than dPc, it will it will just go out as a solid, yeah, or retain in the bowl, solid K. Okay. Nah, and then we have also one special case. Yeah, one special case for settling. Yeah. The special case has two requirements. The first one, yeah, is that the thickness of liquid surface from the wall is very small compared to the radius. Yeah. So the thickness of the liquid, so this interface is not here, but it's here. Yeah, very thin. Yeah. So R is almost reaching R2. Yeah, almost reaching the wall. Yeah, because of the liquid interface is very, very thin. Yeah. And the second requirement is that dP equals to dPc. Yeah. Now, if we have these two requirement met, then the terminal velocity can be calculated using this equation. Yeah, the one on the right hand side of your screen. Yeah, and Tt can be calculated using equation 14, and then V can be calculated using equation 16, and QC can be calculated using equation 15 and 17. Yeah. Okay, so I will go to example 2. Yeah. Okay, let's see. Okay, so we have a viscous solution containing particles. This is the density of the particle. They want to be clarified by centrifugation. And then we also have the solution density here. Yeah, and the viscosity of the solution also here. And then the centrifuge has a bowl with the R2 of this and R1 of this. So this one is the radius from the center line to the wall. This one is the radius between the center and the liquid interface. Yeah, and the height of the centrifuge is this. Calculate the dPc. Yeah, in the exit stream, if the rotational speed is 23,000 RPM, the flow rate is this. Okay, so at first, yeah, we will calculate the angular velocity. Yeah, so we know n, right? So we can get the angular velocity, and using the angular velocity later, we will calculate this QC. Yeah. However, before that, we also want to calculate the volume of the bowl V. Yeah, using the annulus volume. Yeah. So this one is the V. Yeah. Okay, so we know R2 and R1. We also know B. Yeah, from the problem, we can calculate the V. And then, because it's also needed here in the calculation of QC, right? And then we also know the viscosity of the solution. Yeah, we will change this to the SI unit. Yeah, and then the flow rate of QC. Yeah, when we go back up, yeah, we know that the flow rate is in per hour, per unit, a time hour. However, it should be per unit second. Yeah, per unit second. Yeah. So that's why they changed the unit to become cubic meter per second. Okay. Nah, so we know QC, we know V, we know angular velocity, we know all others beside dPc. Yeah, from equation 12. So we can actually calculate dPc by using this equation, yeah, by inserting all of the known variables, and we know that the dPc is 0.75 microns. Yeah. Okay, and then to make sure, yeah, that the centrifugation happens in the laminar speed, in the laminar manner, then we go to equation 13, yeah, to obtain Vt, and then after that we use it to calculate Reynolds number, and it is in the Stokes Lorentz, so it's creeping flow, yeah. Okay, so nah, okay, so in the centrifugation, there is also one more important parameter. We call it as a sigma value. Yeah. So sigma value is actually a physical characteristic of centrifuge. Yeah, so it's a physical characteristic of the centrifuge, not the slurry system. Yeah. Now, what is this sigma value represent? Yeah, so it represents the area of the gravitational settler that will have the same sedimentation characteristic as the centrifuge at the same feed rate. So we imagine both settling vessel and centrifuge vessel has the same feed rate. Yeah, and then the centrifugation will have a characteristic. Yeah. Now, how big is the area of gravitational settler, yeah, of this settling vessel, yeah, how big it's required, yeah, for this gravitational settler, yeah, or the settling vessel to have the same characteristic as the centrifuge, yeah, that's sigma value. Yeah, now this sigma value can be expressed using equation 19 and 20. So we go here, this one or this one. However, for 20, oh, it is very short. Yeah, why? Because it's only for special case. Yeah, that I mentioned in previous slide. This one. Yeah. So the two requirement must be met for us to use this. However, for other, we use this equation 19. Yeah. Now, using the sigma value, yeah, we can also calculate QC. Yeah. Okay, we can also calculate QC. Yeah. Now, okay. So the question is, yeah, the question is, how if we want to scale up the centrifuge? Yeah, the next question is about the scale up. Yeah, we want to have a, settling. Sorry, we want to have a scaling up of the centrifuge, yeah, from the laboratory scale to the industrial scale. However, I want that the particle will have the same terminal settling velocity, the same VT. Yeah, so you can use equation 21. So this one. Yeah, okay. So when we want to scale up the centrifuge from the small one to the big one with the same terminal velocity, yeah, so we can use equation 21. Now, however, if there is an efficiency difference between the two centrifuges, yeah, the small one has their own efficiency, the bigger one also have their own efficiency, then we can use this equation to calculate the uh, the Q or the sigma value. Okay. Okay. Now, okay. So we move to the next subsection. Yeah. Previously, we talked about solid-liquid separation. Now we talk about liquid-liquid separation. Yeah, so we see figure 3. Yeah, yeah. So we have heavy liquid and we have lighter liquid. Yeah, we want to separate, not by settling or sedimentation. We use centrifugation. Yeah. Now, usually the question raised by the engineer, yeah, when we want to separate liquid-liquid by centrifugation is where is the liquid-liquid interface? Ya, where is this interface? Perbatasannya liquid-liquid yang mau kita separasi ini di mana? That's the most common question from the engineer. Why? Because the engineer need to determine where the position of the outlet piping. Let's say if the interface is here, yeah, then the engineer know I have to put the piping outlet for the inner for the lighter liquid here, for the heavy liquid is here. Yeah, okay. If we don't know the liquid-liquid interface, then the engineer will just imagine, oh, I will put the outlet part of the lighter liquid here, here. Then if you put it here, then of course what comes out from the piping outlet, the outlet piping, it will be the mixture between the lighter and heavy liquid. Yeah, but it's not the one. It's not the thing that we want. Yeah, we want it to be pure light and pure heavy materials. Yeah, yeah. So that's why we have to know where the liquid-liquid interface is. Yeah. Now, then how to calculate? Now we will use what we call as a pressure balance. Yeah, we will use what we call as a pressure balance. Yeah, where, okay, so I will just go up again. Yeah, where actually the pressure difference here in the light liquid and the heavy liquid, yeah, it's the same. Yeah, okay. So at this interface, yeah, the delta P here and the delta P here are the same. Yeah. So, yeah, I will go to equation 26. Yeah. So it's the same between the two. This one is, I think, the heavy liquid. This one is the delta P for light liquid. Yeah, so it's the same. So by rearranging the calculation, then we can find the R2. R2 is the radius where the liquid phase is. Yeah. Okay. So we go to example 3. Yeah. So we want to separate vegetable oil with the aqueous phase. Yeah. Using centrifuge, the density of the oil is this, of the aqueous phase is this. We know that the radius R1. R1 is from the liquid interface. It's not the liquid-liquid interface, but the liquid interface with the empty spaces inside the centrifuge is this one. And then the outlet for the heavy liquid is this. Yeah. Okay. So calculate the location of the interface in the centrifuge. So we know, yeah, the density of L and H, yeah, heavy and light phase. And then we use equation 27 and put all of the known variables. Yeah, then we can get R2. Okay. Okay, now, so we go a little bit to the theory, yeah, before later we go again to the calculation. Yeah. Okay, so for the centrifugal settling, yeah, we have two popular equipment. One, we call it as tubular centrifuge. So bowl is very tall and has narrow diameter. Yeah, sometimes we call it super centrifuge, sometimes we call it ultra centrifuge. Yeah, so for super centrifuge, usually it will develop force 13,000 volts of gravity force. Yeah, so 13,000 times of gravity force. Yeah, previously in example 1, I think it's only 100 to 200 volts, but now it's 13,000 volts. Yeah, so it's very, very fast. Yeah. Now, sometimes we also call it as an ultra centrifuge. Yeah, it's a very high speed with RPM of 60,000 RPM and narrower diameter, so it will be tall and narrow. Yeah, and usually used to separate liquid-liquid emulsion. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you can later watch the video here. Yeah, you can access this file in AdLink. Okay. Nah, and then the second one is what we call as a bowl centrifuge or a disc bowl because it has disc here. Yeah. However, we usually in the industry call it bowl centrifuge. Okay, now it's usually used in starch gluten separation, concentration, concentrating the rubber latex solution, and then also for cream separation. Okay, so the principle, the feed enter the compartment either from the top or from the bottom. However, in this figure, I think it comes in from the bottom. Fill all the spaces between the disc, yeah, and then it rotates, right? It rotates. Yeah, due to the difference in the centrifugal force exerted by the components, yeah, either it will be the liquid-liquid or liquid-solid, yeah. The inner part, yeah, will be filled by the light phase. The outer part will be filled by the heavy phase. Yeah, you can watch the video here, yeah, later, yeah, for the working principle, yeah, of this bowl centrifuge. Okay, now, okay, so we are done with the centrifugal settling. Now we go to the centrifugal filtration. Okay, yeah, so actually, yeah, centrifugal filtration is similar to centrifugal settling. However, the wall is perforated atau berlubang. Yeah, it has some holes, and these holes will be layered by the filter medium. Okay, and this filter medium will retain the solid phase while the fluid will passes the medium. Yeah, so the working principles, yeah, feed enter continuously to the bowl. Yeah, so similar to what we've seen previously. However, this bowl has perforated wall and covered by filter medium. Yeah, because of the centrifugal force, yeah, the cake will be retained in the filter medium. Yeah, and the filtrate passes through the medium. Yeah, and then when the cake deposition reaches the desired thickness, yeah, the feed is stopped, and then the wash liquid is introduced to the cake. Yeah, why we have to wash the liquid? Yeah, to make sure that the cake has no impurities anymore. Yeah, or to make sure that all of the liquid is is passing through the medium. Yeah, so to increase the yield. Yeah, Nah, and then subsequently, the cake is spun to dry, ya, diputar untuk dikeringkan, ya, kayak spinning washing machine, begitu ya. And then it will be removed from the medium, and then the medium is rinsed to complete the cycle. Yeah, usually this type of centrifuge is automatic and rotate below 4,000 RPM. Yeah, so for centrifugal filtration, the centrifuge movement is not that fast. Yeah, it's only 4,000 RPM. Okay. Nah, centrifugal filtration is always conducted in constant pressure drop. Okay, so if you still remember that filtration may happen in two modes. Yeah, the first mode will be the constant pressure drop. The second mode will be the constant filtration rate. Yeah, however, for centrifugal filtration, it will only work in the constant pressure drop. Okay, and then there are several requirements. Yeah, in this subchapter, yeah, we will assume that the cake is incompressible, the flow is laminar, and then the layer of cake formed on the filter medium is very thin as compared to the diameter of the centrifuge, so it will not change the area of the separation too much. However, later we also have the special cases when it does change the area significantly. Yeah. Okay, so similar to the filtration. Yeah. So now we're going to the calculation. Yeah. Now, for us to calculate the centrifugal filtration, yeah, we can actually use equation 29. So we just go down. Okay, this one, yeah. If you still remember, we also have this, yeah, in subchapter filtration, yeah, 14.2, yeah, yeah. Nah, so using this equation from subchapter filtration, we put it inside the equation 28, then we can get this equation, yeah, similar to what we've seen in previous subchapter. Okay, and then we also know, yeah, this is a common calculation for pressure. Yeah, pressure is rho g times delta z. Yeah, delta P is rho g times delta z. Yeah, so by combining these two, then we can actually have equation 31. Yeah, oh sorry, 31 is actually the we change this g to AE. After that, we change AE to R times omega square. Yeah, and then dz becomes dr because it's not axial anymore, it's not linear anymore, but it becomes radial direction. Yeah, and then combining both of them, yeah, combining this and this, yeah, we can get this one. Sorry, this one. Yeah, we can get this. By knowing this, we can get this. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so that's the uh, derivation, yeah, from the previous equations to this equation. Yeah, so this, we can calculate the Q or the filtrate flow rate. This one is to calculate delta P. Yeah. Okay, and delta P is actually here. Yeah, from the chapter 2. Yeah. Okay. Now, for the case, yeah, this is special case, friends. For the case where the flow area, yeah, for the case where the flow area varies considerably with the radius, yeah, or the filter area changes substantially during filtration due to cake deposition. Yeah, so previously we talked that in this subchapter we will assume that the cake thickness is very thin. Yeah, it's very thin. Yeah, compared to the diameter of the centrifuge. Yeah, but now it's not. Yeah, it's significantly changes. Yeah, so we can actually use equation 34 to calculate the Q. Yeah, as you can see here, yeah, in equation 33, only one cross-sectional area. Yeah, one type of cross-sectional area. But here we have three, AL, AA, A2. What is A2? A2 is the area of the filter medium, which is not changed. Yeah, which doesn't change at all. Yeah, because the filter medium will stay the same along the centrifugation. Yeah, however, AL, what is AL here? Yeah, AL is the logarithmic average, yeah, or the mean average of the cake area using logarithmic calculation. Yeah, that's AL. Yeah, so that's why we have ln here. We have ln here. This is the definition. Yeah. And then what is AA? AA is the arithmetic average of the cake area. Yeah. And it can be calculated using this. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So that's all for the filtration. Yeah. It's very fast, right? Yeah. And then the fourth outline would be the gas solid cyclone separator. Okay. So what is cyclone separator? Yeah. So it consists of a vertically placed cylinder like this. Yeah. And then with one inverted cone attached to its base. Yeah. Okay, the principle of the separation is centrifugal force. The application is usually to remove the particulate matter. Yeah, so similar to gravity settler. Yeah, however, for gravity settler, it requires a very wide, yeah, a very huge area. Yeah, why? Because we only use gravitational force to separate gas from the particle. So we require a very large area for that. Yeah, very wide equipment for that. However, for cyclone, no. Yeah, why? Because we use centrifugation. We use centrifugal force. Yeah. So it will increase the VT of the particle. So that means the time requirement will be shorter. Yeah. And that means the area will be also smaller. Yeah. Okay, so how it works. Yeah, so we see, yeah, we have a dirty air. Yeah, the gas with particulate matter enter tangentially, yeah, in the radial manner, in the radial direction at the inlet point of the cylinder, and then the the velocity is transformed the flow to become a confined vortex. So that's why, as you can see, it becomes like a vortex. Yeah, and then the centrifugal force tend to drive the suspended solid particles to the wall. Yeah, because of the colliding. Yeah, because of the collision between the particle. Yeah, with the wall, then the wall and the and then the particle will attach. Yeah, to the walls of the cyclone. Yeah, while the gas will still move in a vortex manner. Yeah, and then the vortex will turn upward after reaching the bottom of the cylinder because in the bottom of the cylinder, we installed the inverted cone. The inverted cone, of course, has a angle, yeah, a slanted angle like this that will change the direction of the vortex upward. Yeah, and the cleaner air, yeah, will come out, yeah, while the solid will be collected at the bottom. Yeah. Okay. Nah, the magnitude of the centrifugal force in the cyclone, yeah, will depend on three factors. Yeah, previously we talked already that actually the mass of the particle and then the velocity, yeah, will change the magnitude of the centrifugal force. But now, since we talk about cyclone, yeah, we also say that the radius of the cyclone will also change the magnitude of centrifugal force, yeah. And then the efficiency of the cyclone will depend heavily with the diameter of the cyclone. Yeah, smaller diameter of the cyclone, higher the efficiency. Why? Because the vortex will be very fast in movement, yeah. Okay, and then the centrifugal action increases with the decreases diameter, yeah, and then also the particle size, yeah, will also affect the efficiency. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, 10 microns particle. Yeah, the efficiency is 90. 20 microns particle, the efficiency is 95. Yeah, the smaller the particle size, the lower the efficiency is. Yeah. Okay, and then this is the basic calculation for cyclone. Check. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so in the sub-chapter, yeah, particle is regarded as small enough to follow Stokes' law, so dripping flow, yeah, laminar. Particle size entering the cyclone at their terminal velocity. Okay, yeah. The terminal velocity of the particle, which is in the radial manner or VTR, yeah, can be expressed using equation 35. It can be also calculated using 36 if we have the tangential velocity of the particle. Yeah. Now, however, Yeah, these two equations are very difficult to use. Yeah, why? Because the tangential velocity, gravitational velocity, radial, and also axial position of cyclone is always changes. Yeah, so the tangential velocity will always changes during the movement, yeah, of the gas. Yeah, so therefore, usually we use what we call as an empirical equation, yeah, from the experiment. Yeah, so we can use this equation, yeah, 37. Yeah, okay. Yeah, with B1 and N are empirical constant. Yeah, you obtain from the experiment. Yeah, okay. Now, efficiency of the cyclone, yeah, is generally represented by the mass fraction of collected particle to the total entering particle. So, like if you have 1 kilogram of total entering particle, then uh, how many kilograms, like how many grams you can collect, yeah, using the cyclone. Yeah, that's the efficiency of the cyclone. Yeah, so the mass fraction of the collected particle, yeah, to the total entering particles. Yeah, and it usually increases along with the particle size, just like what I show you here. Higher particle size, higher efficiency. Yeah, the same. Yeah. Okay, and then yeah, cyclone. Yeah, cyclone will also have what we call DPC. Okay, or critical particle size or cut diameter. Yeah, it's yeah similar to what we've learned previously in centrifugal settling. Yeah, however, here the PC is actually defined as minimum diameter or a diameter which half of the entering particles retain in the cyclone, or if the efficiency of the cyclone reaches 50%. Yeah, so when the efficiency of cyclone reaches 50%, that's actually the diameter uh, critical diameter. Yeah, we call that the particle that is subjected to that cyclone is what we call the DPC. Yeah, it's when the efficiency of the cyclone reaches 50%. Yeah, okay. Okay, so if you have any questions, since it's an asynchronous class, yeah, we cannot like directly talk to each other. Yeah, so if you have any question, just drop me a message, yeah, in the group, or you can private chat me. It's okay. Yeah. Nah, I will not give another assignment because you have a lot of assignment already. However, yeah, I hope that you can work on these three problems, yeah, so that you can practice on what we've just discussed today. Yeah. Okay. Just work on it, but you don't need to submit it to me. Yeah. It's just for you to practice. Okay. So thank you very much. And since this is the last class this semester, so I hope you a good luck in the final exam. And thank you very much for contributing actively in the class. And I hope that you can pass all of the courses in the fourth semester because later, yeah, you will continue your study in the partner university. Okay, thank you very much and bye-bye.